When planning to purchase a home for the first time, there are many mistakes that can be made. I'm going to focus on the 6 most common mistakes that I see first-time buyers make when preparing to buy. So the first, and I think this should go without saying, is viewing properties without being financially qualified to do that. What I mean by financially qualified to do that, I'm talking about getting pre-approved to purchase a home, or at least at the minimum, getting pre-qualified to buy a home. Now, there are differences between the two, and I've talked about this in other videos, and definitely check those out. But pre-qualified is really just an overview of what you might qualify for based on a conversation you're going to have with a bank or lender. They're going to pull your credit, or at least they should pull your credit for a pre-qual, and they'll give you an idea of what the price point you should be looking in. A pre-approval, on the other hand, is going to be the same thing, but you're going to give documents to support the information you discuss with that lender, and they'll issue the pre-approval. But the important part with either one of these is that they need to take place prior to viewing properties. I see this all the time. Someone goes out, finds a property, they fall in love with it, and then they find out they don't qualify for that property or qualify for a mortgage in general, which actually leads me to mistake number 2, which is looking for that unicorn or perfect home. So you go out, you start looking at properties, and you made mistake number 1, you didn't get qualified, and you found a home that you love. Then you go, you speak with a lender like myself, you find out what you actually qualify for, and it turns out that it's not going to be the unicorn or perfect home that you found. And now every other home that you go look at from that point forward, you're going to be comparing to that perfect home, that unicorn home that you fell in love with. It's a huge mistake. And that's why you don't want to make mistake number 1 of going out looking at properties before you're qualified to do so. And therefore you avoid mistake number 2, which is falling in love with and looking for that unicorn home that you may not ever find or may not qualify to buy. The third mistake is using the listing agent to represent you as the buyer. Now, you may have heard it's a good idea to go to listing agent because you're going to get a better deal on the property. Maybe they're going to reduce their commission to be able to help you get the property. But don't bank on that. For one, there's a potential conflict of interest if you use the listing agent. Who are they looking out for? Are they looking out for you as the buyer, or are they looking out for the seller? Are they trying to get top dollar for the seller and get you the best price for the property? It really just doesn't make sense. There's a conflict there. The listing agent technically should be loyal to the seller. It's their job to sell the property for the highest possible price, or as close to that list price that they agree to with the seller from the start. If they're going to represent you as a buyer, how are they going to do that? You're going to pay the full price for the property either way, so where's the benefit of using that agent? You also want to keep in mind that that agent has already negotiated what the commission for the transaction is going to be before you came along. The commission is actually paid to the listing agent. So they signed a listing agreement with that seller for a specific amount, let's call it 6%. It's the listing agent who decides to split that commission with the buyer's agent. So using the listing agent to represent you isn't necessarily going to save you any money. So keep that in mind. A buyer's agent works to represent you, and you don't pay them anything to do that. So as I said, mistake number 2 is using the listing agent to represent you as the buyer. Mistake number 4 is relying heavily on what you see home values to be online and basing your offers on properties on those. So an online estimate is something like a Zestimate on Zillow. Zillow is a huge site. Millions of people go to that website every single month. However, you don't want to make your decision on what to offer on a property based on the property's Zestimate, because there's things that aren't considered in that value. And a lot of times the Zestimate could be lower than what the home is actually worth. So if someone's asking $500,000 for a property and the Zestimate is $450,000, it doesn't mean you should offer $450,000. What you should rely on for making your offer is going to be what your realtor, and as I said, use a buyer's agent. Your buyer's agent should be able to pull comparable sales for the property you're interested in, and they'll be able to help you determine what a fair offer would be. A fair offer might be a full asking price for the property, or it may not be. There will be cases where the Zestimate or your online estimate that you're seeing is in line with what the property is actually valued at based on comparable sales and the upgrades that were made to the property you're interested in. But don't base your offers and what you think the value of the property should be solely on the online estimates. The next is mistake number 5 is expecting that the value of the property is going to automatically increase. Now, yes, based on history, property values do appreciate over time here in Florida. At a minimum, we see 5% appreciation. But you don't want to assume that is going to happen and make your decision for buying the property and where you're going to offer for that property around the expected automatic increase in that property's value, because nothing is ever guaranteed and nothing is ever automatic when it comes to real estate and the value of that real estate. Now, you may make improvements to the property and that could add value, but just keep in mind that those things are not guaranteed. And mistake number 6 is underestimating other expenses that come along with homeownership or the hidden costs of homeownership. You obviously know what your mortgage payment's going to be. You know what the taxes, the insurance, and so forth are on the property. But what are those hidden expenses, those things you weren't considering? You need to budget for maintenance and repairs and just taking care of the yard, for example, right? That's going to cost you money if you're not going to do it yourself. And if you're going to pay someone to do it, you're going to have to pay that person. Like I said, right? You're paying someone to do it. Those are things you might need to consider. You also want to think about maybe unexpected repairs. You're no longer going to be renting. You're not going to have your landlord to take care of repairs that they might take care of now in your rental. You are going to be responsible for those things as the homeowner. So you want to make sure you're budgeting and you consider those things prior to buying the property, because you don't want to use every dollar you have toward the purchase, leaving yourself nothing for these unexpected expenses. So those are the 6 things I see as the most common mistakes. It's important for you to educate yourself on the home buying process, and watching this video was a step in the right direction. Make sure to subscribe so you can continue your preparation for home ownership and avoid the common mistakes first-time buyers make, such as those mentioned in this video.